welcome to another edition of the MSDW podcast. I'm your host, Jason Gumpert, editor of MSDynamicsWorld.com. Today we're joined by Bob Monio, Global Alliances Director and Sales Lead for Lexmark and their Invoice capture service with a focus on the company's Microsoft business. Just yesterday, Lexmark announced updates to its Invoice capture service and automation features for Dynamics NAV, as well as new incentives and support for NAV partners for selling and deploying the SaaS solution. The company also has its ICS solution ready to go for Dynamics 365 for business and has been doing a lot of work to get NAV partners engaged in selling NAV and ICS sales. Hi, Bob. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Jason. Thanks for allowing me to join you here today.
So tell us a little bit more about Lexmark and maybe its history in the Dynamics space and your role.
Sure. Let me start with my role first. Again, my name is Bob Monio, and I'm the Global Alliances Director here at Lexmark. I'm also the sales lead for our invoice capture service as it applies to our work with Microsoft and Microsoft Dynamics. You asked about some background on Lexmark. Lexmark is a company that's been in business for well over 25 years, starting initially with our efforts in the area of printing and printing solutions. In fact, most people will know us for that and our efforts in that space. But approximately 8 to 9 years ago, Lexmark began to invest more so in the software operations and activities associated with how organizations manage and work with their content, and began to do acquisitions in that space. A number of acquisitions which recently have been very large and very notable as far as the industry is concerned. You might have heard about the acquisition of Perceptive Software, which brought in a very large base of solutions, specifically in the area of ECM and content management. Also, some acquisitions in the healthcare space where we expanded into providing healthcare solutions and image management for organizations. But also, I'd like to point out that in the last 2.5 years, several acquisitions were made primarily in the area of providing process-based and capture-based solutions which help organizations better manage not only invoice processing and financial processing in general, but also to help them address what they're doing as they look at that first mile of content acquisition as it comes into the organization and help them manipulate and manage that more effectively. The business I came from and how I joined Lexmark was primarily through an organization called ReadSoft, which had been leaders for over 25 years in the area of accounts payable automation. And specifically, as we talk about Microsoft Dynamics, this is one of the core platforms, one of the core building blocks for where we deliver accounts payable automation. And we've got some very exciting things to talk about in the work that we do with Microsoft in that space.
Okay, great. And when Microsoft announced Dynamics NAV 2016, they highlighted the arrangements with Lexmark and also an arrangement with another company, Tradeshift, to offer invoice processing capabilities. And since then, obviously, Lexmark has been pushing their solution forward. We just noted the release of the 1.1 version of the invoice capture service, ICS. But going back to maybe the NAV 2016 launch and Lexmark's involvement through ICS, what was the thinking behind this arrangement, or what was the view of this arrangement? How did it change, do you think, Lexmark's approach to the market, to the Dynamics NAV channel, when you have this close tie-in to the core ERP product?
This is really a direction, Jason, that we are taking across the board as you look at our solutions as it applies to ERPs. And from the standpoint of Lexmark solutions today, be aware we do process literally billions of invoices through our solutions. And with over 15,000 AP customers today leveraging our solutions, we're working with really the big three of ERP as it applies to how organizations are managing their operational assets and processes inside their organization. And Microsoft, as I mentioned earlier, is one of those core platforms for us, one of those big three that we work with. And Microsoft approached us prior to that announcement and talked to us about the fact that in deploying their world-class ERP solution set, they wanted to make sure that they were able to also be able to have a partnership with an organization in the area of a business process like financial process automation, whereby they could leverage those solutions that were being provided in a seamless fashion, quick, easy, very easy to deploy deploy for their customers and do that. And for us, this was very much glove in hand. This was exactly what we wanted to do and how we wanted to engage these types of ERP organizations and what they're doing with their solutions. So we began a process of bringing our platforms together. It was very easy for us to do because we were already in the cloud. We were already a software as a service solution that was in use by a number of other ERP platforms as well as other customers out there and large integrators who were leveraging it as part of their work. So this was something that we could do very, very quickly, very, very seamlessly. And with Microsoft, we met a target goal of being able to deploy a solution for a customer in less than 10 minutes, something that had been relatively unmatched. It was something that no one else could really do because traditionally when we were deploying accounts payable for customers, this could take upwards of 25 to 30 days, many thousands of dollars in professional services, software, hardware, you name it, had to be deployed. With this solution, we were able to do it in less than 10 minutes and yet still be able to deliver the types of savings that customers were looking for. So in Microsoft approaching us, as you started with your question, this was really something that we ourselves had identified in the market that was a unique niche for us and one that we felt was something that we could do pretty seamlessly. And so we were glad to see Microsoft step forward. We deployed it as part of NAV 2016 a year ago in October, and we've had tremendous success since that time. And now with NAV 2017 just around the corner, the announcement of Dynamics 365 and the fact that the invoice capture service is already part of Dynamics 365 for the SMB platform, and we're demonstrating it to customers today. All this does is really reinforce that was the right decision for Microsoft to make at the time and the right decision for our organization to pursue that type of partnership and that type of working relationship with Microsoft.
You mentioned the very quick setup of the ICS integration and getting it active compared to let's say weeks of setup work. What does that really do? How does that really change the notion of getting invoice processing automated inside of a company? Does it change the people who make it possible? Does it change the relationship with the services provider who they typically work with, like their Microsoft partner? Have you seen any changes that sort of rapid deployment, rapid stand-up of the capabilities brings?
Absolutely. And I think there's a couple of common themes here that are resonating and continue to resonate for customers and for partners. I mean, initially, partners were concerned that if you could really deploy this solution in less than 10 minutes, that would impact their overall services portfolio and what they were doing for customers. And naturally, in conversations with partners, that was the first thing they brought up. But what we saw was that partners began to shift to more of a true services innovation model for their customers, in the sense that they did not have to worry any longer about maintenance of equipment and other types of tools. They could focus on the real business process innovation that customers are looking for. And as you know, in the area of accounts payable and financial process in general, it's really a plethora of opportunity for partners to really look at how an organization is managing their business process and really in turn take and innovate and implement new ways to do that sort of work. And Microsoft actually, as part of NAV 2016, introduced a workflow engine which provided the capabilities to do this type of work, something that Microsoft had always had available in their other platforms like AX, for example. So it really was a synonymous way to allow those partners to move into more high dollar, high value types of services that they could deliver to their customers. And we also took steps with Microsoft to provide education, thought leadership, and other things to help them really make that shift. And I can point to quite a few partners today who are doing very, very well in that space. Another theme that came out was that with the use of the cloud for extraction and for capture and for doing the work that was necessary that traditionally had to be done at an equipment level, but now doing it up in the cloud, this really changed the paradigm as far as the type of customers that could really engage and utilize the invoice capture and actually begin to see value from accounts payable. Because today, whether you were a very small organization or one of the largest enterprises in the world, you're all processing supplier invoices. You all have needs to process those more effectively. You're all dealing with issues that can range from the inability to take and do approvals on time, the inability for you to take advantage of early payment discounts, where if you paid it earlier, you could get a discount from a supplier because you turned that around much faster for them. These are all things that, whether you're a small organization or a large organization, you're seeing as part of your operations. And as part of that effort, traditionally in the past, and we know this because we've done this, as I've said, for tens of thousands of customers around the world at a premise level, traditionally you could only do this work if you were a big company because CapEx requirements, the size of the environment, the dollar investment, and other things would have to go in up front, oftentimes made it impossible for an SMB organization to really step forward and take advantage of it. So the theme I'm approaching here with you is the fact that now we really have leveled the playing field. And as you look at the install base around NAV, what you find is that there are many small organizations, even shared service types of configurations that service smaller customers and roll that up, that traditionally would not have been able to do this type of work. But with the use of the invoice capture service and the way that Microsoft has built the interfaces into the user interface and other things, now they too can take advantage of this as well. So it becomes a way then that playing field is leveled. A real second theme that we saw from this being introduced to those customers. And as the promise of accounts payable innovations and operational improvement has always been there, and what that could mean as you look at your cost per invoice and you look at those early payment discounts and how quickly you can turn things around. The other thing we've seen is the return on investment being delivered. And what that means then is now those savings, that cost per invoice savings, which as you look at a cost per invoice inside of companies, whether you're large or small, ranging from somewhere around $15 to $25 per invoice to process, we're now seeing customers being able to drive that down as much as 80%. And that savings that they're getting because they're taking advantage of this out-of-the-box capability, the AP invoicing, the capture, and being able to do that sort of work, that's being delivered back to them. And our partners are seeing this as well because they're now able to go into NAV, flip the switch, less than 10 minutes, have it up and working. They can help the customer deploy that workflow and workflow processing in order to turn that on. And they become a much more of a trusted confidant back to that customer. And a final thing I will say is that we also acknowledge that we wanted to make the availability of incentives as well to these particular partners and such, and we did do that and make that available to them. So that's something else that we announced, and I think you noted that as part of the announcement we recently did. So 3 themes that we wanted to share with you.
Great. You mentioned NAV 2016 and the addition of workflow enhancements, which I did want to ask you about. And you touched on NAV 2017, which really is not very far away at this point. And I guess the other product that's worth noting right now is Dynamics 365 and the business edition specifically, which I think is more relevant for related to NAV. Can you talk about what you have been seeing with, maybe start with sort of the functional or technical aspects of what Microsoft has done with NAV 2016. Workflow is one example. I think extensions are another. I don't know if that's relevant to you. And what else might be coming in NAV 2017 that you think is important for partners to be aware of, for customers to be aware of, that will benefit things like invoice capture, that will benefit things that are very business process centric. And also, so both for NAV 2017 and the work you're doing with Dynamics 365.
Sure. Speaking specifically to some things that are forthcoming in 2017, I mean, Microsoft does a very good job of providing telemetry around new features that are coming in the future versions of the products. And I know in some of the other podcasts and other updates that you've been providing to the community, you've taken steps to make sure that some of this was also being shared. And I don't want to overstep my bounds in that way, but as it applies to the work that we do in financial process automation, certainly we're very excited to see that enhancements are continuing to be made to the workflow engine, exposing more and more attributes and objects for purposes of including those in the workflow. Also, various types of roles and role responsibilities that are crucial to doing workflow approvals and managing exceptions, which is where the highest amount of cost is contributed to their cost per invoice. Those types of improvements and enhancements and work that they're doing to really drive that forward, that's crucial and critical to continuing that success that customers want to see from their process innovation and enhancement that they're doing. I think it's also important to point out that these types of enhancements, and because of the fact that the Dynamics 365 Business Edition platform was built on the NAV componentry, and that's essentially what was part of Project Madeira. This type of capability is now being carried forward into that platform as well. So you really do have a true hybrid cloud capability where you can operate and manage and run business processes not only in the cloud and taking advantage of the cost savings and things that come from that, but you can also do it at the premise level and therefore be able to deliver a true hybrid. From our perspective, certainly as it applies to the way we're embracing both of these platforms, we're demonstrating today in our town hall calls and work that we do in communicating to our partners and customers how the solution's being deployed. We're demonstrating to them the same things that they're doing within 2016 and what they'll be seeing in 2017 in a synonymous way as to also what's being deployed in the forthcoming 365 deployment. So from that perspective, it's exciting now that we can, as they say, oftentimes build once, run many times, or run the same, which used to be a promise with various types of software languages and things in the past. Today, we can really do that in a true hybrid fashion and allow customers to get the benefit of that so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel, whether they're running premise or they're running in the cloud. They're also getting the enhancements that Microsoft's making available as part of the forthcoming 2017 platform. And there's many, many more than just the ones I was just describing. But also they can take advantage of it as part of the 365 offering as that becomes available. And again, 2017, 365, the telemetry around that Microsoft's been providing and when they're going to make these platforms available is just over the horizon. So we're very excited about it, but rest assured, we're talking to customers and partners about all of this today.
So NAV 2017 and Dynamics 365 are just over the horizon, and we actually just posted a piece kind of previewing one of the upcoming events where that'll be one of the key topics, NAV Directions North America, which is taking place in September, and I know Lexmark will be there among many other solution providers. One of the things I took from the article that Dan put together for us on previewing that event was the, acknowledgement by some of the organizing committee members that this discussion between NAV 2017, Dynamics 365, and how they coexist there still remains a fairly big question for people, which I think Microsoft's made it fairly clear, but it certainly seems to still be something that people are asking about. I know from your perspective in providing a solution that works with both, Bob, I did want to ask if there are differences that you are looking at, either in terms of the kind of solution, maybe perhaps differences in what will actually be delivered, or differences in the way you plan to work with partners who are going to sell 365 versus NAV 2017. Is there anything in particular there that you and your team is being mindful of right now?
I'd say at first, not really. From our perspective, having been born in the cloud with our solution, as we've applied it with ICS, we've actually been through a lot of these types of discussions previously where we've had to support both premise-based types of invoice extraction as well as also cloud-based extraction. And we've gone down that journey with our customers. And we're used to the feedback and the variety and level of maturation that customers and partners have as they're embracing it and as they're working with us on their implementations and their sales and support efforts. That being said, certainly because we've been down that pathway, our perspective is one of being able to provide the same types of capability to the nth degree, so our customers have the confidence that invoice capture in NAV 2017, as invoice capture is to Dynamics 365, is going to be seamless and the same across those platforms to them. So calls to the service by either solution from Microsoft's perspective are met, addressed, and delivered in the same type of fashion. Today, we see the way that incoming documents are being extracted and how that information is being delivered down, really to be the same between 2017 and 365 in our testing and the work that we're doing. So from that perspective, we have complete confidence that we can embrace that, and we can also be a good communications confidant to partners and to customers to help them through that maturation process as they address it and as they deal with it. I was in a number of events in the past, as well as also at the Worldwide Partner Conference, where there was a lot of question as to how is this really going to work? Will there be a difference in the type of services and capability and other things that are being provided as it addresses the area of the FPA and AP functions? Certainly from our perspective, because we're running it as a service, we're able to abstract that well, for the customer. We're not seeing any differences there. I expect potentially, some packaging adjustments as it applies to the cloud, as they begin to look at ways that you could leverage Dynamics 365 componentry for customers and the work that they do based on a customer's specific need. But yet, when it comes to accounts payable processing, I don't see changes specifically to that in any shape or form, and customers can rest assured that they're going to receive the level of functionality, whether they're running premise or they're running in the cloud. And there should not be a change in that regard. Microsoft's also been very good and very upfront, I think, as we've been working with them as an ISV on really asking us questions to gauge our perceptions as well about what we're seeing, and does it really allow us to meet the needs that the customers are evidencing. Because at the end of the day, a partner is going to communicate a degree of savings that a customer is going to see by deploying the solution, and that has to be maintained, whether it's being deployed at a premise level or at a cloud level. So Microsoft's been very good about asking, are we seeing this? Is it still being maintained? Is it still being carried through? So from that perspective, we've always been answering yes, because we see that, and therefore we feel very strongly that at least when it comes to the things we're doing, that this is spot on with that delivery.
I wonder if you could comment a little more broadly on sort of that last point, because I know you've worked with a variety of ERP vendors over the years, and Lexmark obviously partners with different solution providers. Are there any good analogies to what you're seeing with the transition going on with Microsoft's SMB ERP solutions right now, in comparison perhaps to other situations you've been a part of or other vendors you've partnered with? Any lessons or experiences that you think compare?
Well, again, I can look at this in really two ways, Jason. Certainly, first, let me look at it specifically from the ERP perspective. Every ERP vendor that we work with who is a key partner to Lexmark is going through a maturation and evolution of their platforms as they embrace what has really been a perfect storm associated with the impact the cloud has been having on their businesses. And as they look at how they embrace the cloud, how they ensure that their products are relevant from a cloud perspective, and that they're also ensuring that there is a true hybrid which safeguards the customer's investment as they work in either a premise or cloud-based environment. Again, every organization is going through that, and we have close relationships with them, and we work very hard to ensure that when it comes to invoice capture and extraction, that our customers are getting what they need, and it is in a sense maintained and secure. Microsoft, of course, is going through the same thing. Microsoft's products are at various levels as we speak today, in support of that. And again, the cloud is having that impact on them and having an impact on that maturation process. We certainly believe that because we have been in the cloud business for many, many years now in the work that we deliver, and specifically as an innovator in delivering a software as a service, cloud-based invoice extraction solution as we do, we have really cut our teeth on how does this work, what is the best way to make this work, and can we really truly work alongside of these ERP vendors as they're going through their evolution and maturation process. And I really take my hat off to the designers and the people who have really built what we call the invoice capture service, built on the ReadSoft online engine that many of those listeners on the call here today will probably recognize. They really took the time to make sure that a customer's investments were being maintained, while at the same time as our ERP partners were going through these cycles, a customer could interject themselves at any particular time, take advantage of what the service provides, and that the service itself will secure and ensure that during the course of that evolutionary track that the ERP is taking, that everything is being maintained and that it is being secured, and that the customer doesn't have to go back, as we say, pay for the same ground twice. It just doesn't happen that way. So I do see, and certainly do we see, a lot of maturation quickly as our other partners out there, others of that big three or big four, depending on how you look at it. And as you embrace the SMB market, there's several other major players there as well. And as they go through their cloud evolution of their platforms and really make that available, the good news is that if you've invested in the invoice capture service and the ReadSoft online capabilities, you can count on the fact that we'll be there from the very beginning all the way through to the end, and that they made the right investment in working with us.
I want to go back to the topic of partners again, because I know from what you've said and in recent announcements, Lexmark's really investing a lot in, partner readiness and partner enablement in the Microsoft Dynamics space right now, getting partners, first of all, aware of what they can deploy from Lexmark, but also just kind of giving them tools. And can you talk more about that? What do partners, in your view, really need right now if they're going to be selling Dynamics NAV or Dynamics 365 and putting something compelling in front of their either existing clients to upgrade or new prospects? What do you see in those areas that have shaped some of those efforts you've been making?
There's a couple of areas that are very, very important that partners are embracing today in order to really truly be successful. And I will say that we have done a lot of work to ensure that we provide the knowledge and capability around our platform in such a way that it complements what the ERP vendors are doing, and specifically to what Microsoft is doing. Microsoft has a very, very vested interest in making sure that their cloud messaging resonates, hits home, partners know it, partners are skilled in it, partners have the certifications and other things as necessary to really be seen by their customers as experts in understanding the impact the cloud can have on their business. And what we do is we take and ensure then that the product set that we have, or product sets that we have, complement that very well. All of our messaging, all of the work that we do, and really casting ourselves as a perfect example of how a cloud-based service really does impact a business that's either contemplating a directional change to the cloud or is already moving through the cloud, what that impact can really be. And Microsoft actually uses us as an example of a business partner that's done it right and is doing it right when it comes to delivering a true software as a service, which is exactly what Microsoft wants to see in this space. And actually, as we hear from other ERP players, it's exactly what they want to see as well. We also have recognized that as you start to shift from the platform to the process, there is a need to provide thought leadership, training, materials, documentation, and other types of tools that partners can take advantage of, so that not only are they addressing, the cloud shift, but as they move into the process-based area, they can leverage this to be seen as experts in that particular field. And again, really hammering home that trusted, confident component that the customer is looking for. So in the area of AP automation, for example, we provide all of the content and we speak about that, we train on that, we support them, so that by adding this to what they're doing in the deployment of that process, that customer looks to them as saying that, yes, indeed, you understand my business issue, you know where to turn, and in turn, then you're able to make sure that that sale comes through. So we help them with that as well. Now, we do take into account that many of these partners will also then have the appropriate underlying ERP skills, such as the workflow tools, making sure that they've got those types of skills, they understand the deployment aspects of it. And while we operate as that service, we also expect that they have these types of capabilities in place, and we can direct them to where to get them from Microsoft as they move forward. So this is something that does carry into the product at a level that ensures that the customer is getting what they need there as well. Now, we do run a series of town hall events. We do these monthly with our partners. We have recorded videos and other types of tools, sales tools and such, that we provide as part of a very comprehensive resource site that partners can turn to. And again, I'm regularly talking to, as well as is our pre-sales teams, the various, in this case, Dynamics partners that are implementing their solutions, and we're talking to them regularly about their concerns and their needs and helping them through the efforts that they're doing. And we see that as something that we have to do, but we'll also see it, Jason, as very important that we embrace the first 2 points in my answer here. Number one, that we help them see how to convey that cloud message, and that we set ourselves up as an example for them as a real cloud software as a service tool in a way that really embraces the things that customers need to see, and they can see how easy it is to turn this on and take advantage of it and make it happen for them. And then also secondarily, the fact that when it comes to what they're doing around accounts payable thought leadership, that we're providing them that additional level of skill set, training, and knowledge that they need to really close that door as well. So we do those extra efforts to help our partners be successful and ultimately deliver what the customer needs.
I'm curious about your town halls. What kinds of questions you're fielding? I know you're holding them fairly regularly. I ask because I hear when I talk to some, SMB Microsoft partners, there's still some reluctance about the direction. I hear it from customers too in the SMB space who are maybe legacy NAV or GP customers who have been on solutions for a while and haven't been convinced yet. Do you need to do a lot of convincing right now with partners in this space still, or how would you characterize the conversations you're having right now?
Well, at the beginning, when we first started our town halls, and we do run them monthly, there was a lot of, shall we say, show me type of skepticism, just like there was when we did the workshops and participation with Microsoft at the announcements last October. We were part of their road show. I was on the road in Mannheim. I was on the road in Orlando and in other locations where Microsoft would get up and present invoice capture, leveraging our service, and customers and partners were going, wow, that's kind of interesting. But as it is with any Microsoft demonstration, was this just genned up for our benefit, or does it really, really work? And how does it work with the exceptions and other things that were there? And so I will tell you that at the very beginning, we had to address that because customers were saying, can you really do this in 10 minutes or less? Absolutely. Let's show you. Can you deal with oddball types of invoices? We know you can do it at the premise level, but how do you really take a multi-tenant solution like you're talking about here with the invoice capture service with a built-in machine learning type of engine? Does that really do what it's supposed to do? And can I count on the fact that that information is going to be conveyed down into NAV, instantly, and I've got the availability to access the image so I can go back to it later from a compliancy perspective. At the very beginning, our town halls were all about reinforcing that message, and we also used various types of polling and other tools. We did work with Microsoft, and we did a series of telemarketing initiatives, both in North America and also in Europe and the principal regions where Navision is deployed, where we asked them, what are you taking advantage, first of all, of the town halls? Are you aware of this content being available? What are your concerns? What are your issues? And it really has been something that has continued to grow both in awareness and in maturation. We see less questions now, if hardly any at all. In fact, you can usually sense that when you're doing a town hall and you're looking at the polling data, and what you're seeing is that the questions have matured to the point of now, can you help me with a particular process workflow, which means the data's there, the content's there. Really what you're asking for is more help in being able to fine-tune a particular business process, which I guess if I was a consulting firm, I'd be looking at that going, absolutely, I can do that for you. But what that tells me is that the ability to do what we said we were going to do is done. It's happening. It's working. It's impacting it. I also see it in the context of not only in the town halls, Jason, but also in the area of what we see from competitors and what we see from others in the market. Even Microsoft themselves, who has come back to us and said, emphatically, the maturation is there. And finally, in the area of the real hardline revenue results, the reasons we did this, the reasons why Microsoft did this was, to increase the invoice volumes that were traditionally being done at premise, but to do it in the cloud. And I can tell you that when you're adding tens of customers a week and you're adding literally thousands of invoices a week being processed through this system, and you're seeing customers both small shared service configurations and also some very large, customers that are going to run up to 1 million invoices through the system, very, very large entities running NAV, and there are some out there. What that says is that it's working. It's doing what it should be doing. And now we're focusing on accelerating that, and we're adding more functionality as we continue to do. You saw that from the recent press release and announcements that we did. We're adding more functionality to the features and functions that we provide. We really do keep our ear to the rail. So it started out with a little bit of skepticism because it was fairly new. It was a scenario where people went, wow. And now it's all about, okay, let's really take and begin to accelerate this, and let's really start to grow this. And actually within Lexmark, I will tell you that as our cloud operations are concerned, this particular product is the fastest growing product in the Lexmark Enterprise Software organization as far as number of customers, volumes, revenue, and other things as it continues to grow. So it's working.
Great. And, with a pure cloud service like this coming from technology that was traditionally on-prem, you have a 1.1 now. How does deploying a new point release, 0.1, affect existing customers? And is it going to be? Are we going to see sort of a continual release of these these added features and improvements over time that? And will they just sort of be delivered to customers who are using the cloud service?
Absolutely. In fact, the beauty of the cloud is we can deliver updates and enhancements pretty much overnight to our customers very, very quickly. And, the beauty of our town halls and other activities is that then we can educate them on what has been newly been made available as part of the solution. Release 1.1 was really an opportunity for us to deliver something that we wanted to make available to those customers who had very complex purchase order needs and approval cycles, and that was the ability to provide line items. And we did that from a timing standpoint with Microsoft in lockstep with them. Because they were also deploying capabilities as part of their workflow. But certainly, as of just today, for example, as part of the town halls that we've just completed, we introduced some additional features to the line item processing and functionality, which further enhances the way that customers are leveraging the incoming item data for purposes of approvals and processing within their general ledger, which was something that, again, is a needed feature that we identified, that we wanted to make available as part of our ongoing roadmap. And as we continue to do this, we'll make that available to our customers and announce it as part of our town halls and the events that we go to. So it really is very, very easy to do this type of work on behalf of our customers, and that's one of the benefits and reasons why we see the cloud as the right way to go.
So, Bob, related to customers' buying habits, are you seeing Click, Try, Buy as a model that's being picked up and working for customers and for you as a vendor?
Absolutely. Click, try, and buy, as you noted, is something that in the internet and in the cloud world is a very common approach to helping customers and partners, for that matter, really truly test, verify, and then from there make a decision on whether they're going to move forward with the use of a particular app or particular piece of software in the cloud. And when we began our journey with Microsoft, one of the fundamental things that we agreed we wanted to do was to provide customers with the ability to have that click, try, and buy approach to utilizing the extraction services. And what we did is we introduced, which was really something that was relatively unknown at the time, the concept of a freemium capability where customers could utilize the invoice processing functionality of ICS for header and footer only to be able to do this at a level of about 75 free invoices per month. And what this did is it opened a door for customers where they could go in, they could really test it. I mean, we put some skin in the game. We said, let's go ahead, let's let you test it. You can try it. You can actually see that when an invoice comes in, the content is extracted, the image is delivered down, the data is delivered into NAV, and you can begin working and processing that content. And it's been a real hit. And when I say that based on feedback that we've been getting from customers who have said, I was a little skeptical at the beginning, but because of the way that you approach this, I'm moving now from utilizing what was the freemium mode, and for many of them, they very quickly ran over that 75, and there is an upcharge that they pay, which isn't very much. It's about 99 cents an invoice for them to take in if they go over that 75, but they very, very quickly began to shift to leveraging the subscription model. And again, with the subscription model, it is a pay-as-you-go based on what you want to commit to as far as your level of subscription for a month's basis. And with that, you also get the added benefit of the line item extraction and other capabilities that come with that. And so we really, really like the idea of providing that click, try, and buy freemium model, and are going to continue to do so because it really does allow customers to go in, test it, validate it, and then from there begin to go forward and determine that, hey, I'm really seeing the value from this. The return on investment is there. I'm going to go ahead and begin to subscribe and utilize the service. In fact, we saw some of our customers within the matter of a week of using the freemium model immediately go back into our e-commerce site, which is a site that's linked to NAV, where they go in and they actually will subscribe and utilize the service. They quickly move from freemium immediately to subscription. It was actually a wonderful thing to see. I mean, just boom, they were there. And what that told us is these folks got what they wanted and they made the move. Now, in some conversations with customers, they have actually moved past freemium because they saw what others were doing and they said, "Yeah, I want that. I've talked to them. I've heard the benefit and value. I don't need to start at freemium. I'll skip that step and go right to subscription." We certainly like that too. But we do and will continue to have the freemium functionality available. And again, this is something that we worked on with Microsoft at the very beginning, and we think it was the right way for us to do this. In fact, we know this was the right way for us to do this.
So can you talk at all about how you at Lexmark make that decision or around how to structure something like freemium, where there is an element of free offering, and to make sure that you can do it in a way that makes business sense for you as well as for your partners?
Let me say that when we first embraced the freemium model, we took steps inside the organization to really assess, first of all, what is the intention that we're trying to drive here, with customers. And what is that threshold that a customer would take and say, all right, I get it. I'm committed to this because I see the value that it's driving. I'm well in excess of what the freemium is offering, but I'm certainly now committed to wanting to move this forward. And as part of that effort, we had analysis that was done of the customer base, the number of invoices on an average. We did it across a number of different ranges and such, but the number of invoices that a NAV customer would process. We then took that and we compared that also to what our inherent costs are. And certainly as you look at a model like this, and when you're in the software as a service, self-service type of model, naturally you do not have a lot of the types of costs that you traditionally have when you're in a premise-based model, because your sales costs are less. Okay, so you have higher margins associated with what you're doing. Your support margins are different as far as how you embrace it. Understand, because of the work that we're doing with Azure and how we work with Azure, we've got some costs associated with that. But at the end of the day, it's a very straightforward set of equations that you go through that cost justify the level and approach that you want to take to deliver, a freemium and then a subscriptive or value plus model that you approach the market with. And of course, in conversations with Microsoft, we worked very closely with them and their feedback that they gave us, and that also helped us shape that. We'd like to say that our research has proved out, and today, based on using that 75 number, it's worked very, very well. We know exactly when do we see the dollars being returned against that 75 free that we've been giving. We also know that this is a good model that works in the area of our partner community, because our partners actually sign up in the system. They're able to test it. They're leveraging the freemium model, plus they also are able to leverage subscription, of course, so that they can test the line item processing on behalf of their customers. But the way that this has been put together means then that I can tell you we're well beyond the need to be concerned about recouping any costs associated with what we're doing from a freemium perspective. In fact, it's worked well beyond what we had expected. And to our executive management team and others in our organization who certainly looked at this, approved this, they're very, very excited, and they were very, very forthright in saying that, yes, this is the right thing to do, and so they supported it from day one. But I think that at the end of the day, we counsel, and we talk to other ISVs when you're at events, and they say, well, this freemium thing, is that really, how do we do that? And we give them some of the benefit of, how did we go about thinking this through? And definitely, if you want to play in this space and you're providing a value-added service such as what we do around AP, but you're doing it in other areas and you want customers to adopt and adapt to it quickly, taking advantage of that click, try, and buy, freemium is the right way for you to do that, especially if you can isolate it down to a transaction such as what we did with an invoice being an invoice process as a transaction.
This has been the MSDW podcast. Thank you for listening. And if you'd like to be on the podcast, maybe you're an ISV with a product release, a consultant with a case study, or a VAR with a unique slant on Microsoft Dynamics product news or company direction, drop us a line. I'm Jason Gumpert. You can reach me at jgumpert@msdynamicsworld.com. Until next time, we're MS Dynamics World signing off.